Hello everyone, welcome to a new video of the European Union and me. Today we'll be talking about the advantages and disadvantages of joining the European Union. First, advantages. 1. You have free borders. This means that traveling becomes easier. As you may know, you don't need a passport to move in between the member countries of the EU. This makes traveling easy because it prevents long waits at the borders. It also is an advantage for companies or transport of goods because it speeds up the transport. The second advantage is that it created many jobs. It was easier to move to another country and find work there. For example, Polish people come to the Netherlands to work here. If there wasn't a free border, this would be much harder. This is, for you guys, probably the most important advantage. 3. There's no extra cost for data in a foreign country, EU country, or calling from or to a foreign EU country. Up until a few years ago, you had to pay a different amount of money to your phone organization if you would call to or receive a call from outside your country. Nowadays, the EU took care of the fact that you pay the same tariff for calling to Amsterdam or to Paris. And the same goes for texting and for data. The fourth advantage is that the EU helps dealing with natural disasters. Member countries can ask the EU for money and help when a country suffered from a natural disaster. The EU has a special fund for this kind of request called the EU's Solidarity Fund. They have a budget of over 5 million euros to spend on natural disasters. The fifth is that the EU reduces discrimination. The EU promotes human rights in every member country for everyone to reduce discrimination. 6. The euro is in most ways an advantage because it's easier to pay with cash in other countries without needing to exchange your money. In most member countries of the EU, we use the euro as a currency. This causes it to be easier to pay cash in most countries. This is because in most cases, you have to pay a little amount to exchange your money, a kind of tax. This means that by exchanging your money, you lose money. Since most member countries use the euro, that extra payment is taken away and you will lose no money. The seventh advantage is modernization of countries. Member countries have a great commitment to have a good rule of law in terms of human rights and market economy based. This means that they have to keep modernizing their country, and the EU stimulates this. The eighth advantage is that the EU increases security. Because of the fact that countries are working together to create and keep peace, the member countries of the EU became much more safe. Also, in terms of terrorism and refugee movements, the EU has become safer and is more secured. The last advantage is that you have an influence on the international matter. Being a member of the EU means that you can have a vote on international matters and give your view about it. This means that every joining country has an influence on the international matters. 2024 is your year. Then you'll be able to vote, and don't forget it. The last advantage is that there is peace in Europe. The EU's first goal was to create a peaceful and united Europe. This goal cared for the fact that there hasn't been another world war in Europe and that we nowadays live in peace. Now let's move on to the disadvantages. The first disadvantage is that it has an incredibly high cost. Being a member of the EU is very expensive. For example, the EU only spent in the years they have been a member over £13.1 billion to the EU. Because of the high cost, the member countries in most cases increase taxation. This means that you as a citizen have to pay more tax to the government, because the member countries get the money they need to pay to the EU by the tax from their citizens. The third disadvantage is overcrowding. In this graph, you see the amount of Polish people moved to the Netherlands over the last few years. Because of the fact that people are free to move in the UA, it causes many people to move to a certain place. For example, Polish people are moving to the Netherlands to get a job, because in Poland there aren't many jobs available, and in the Netherlands there are. This causes not only the population of the Netherlands to increase, but also the population of Poland to decrease, which causes an unbalanced Europe. The last disadvantage is the lack of influences on the elections. The EU citizens only directly choose the members of the EU Parliament, but all the other institutions are chosen by the governments of the member countries. This causes the citizens to have only little influence on who's representing them as a country in the European Union. Well, these were the main advantages and disadvantages of the European Union. Hope you enjoyed this video.